ain't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd Without Fear, and I'm joined by two very special guests today. It is the creative team behind the upcoming Dynamite series, Powerpuff Girls. And I guess let's I want to give some accolades and some background just in case, on the off chance, for whatever reason, if somehow people do not know who you are. I don't know how they wouldn't, but you never know. I'm joined, I guess we'll start with to my left. I have Eisner Award winning writer, Kelly Thompson, my favorite Captain Marvel writer. I also, you may or may not, if you keep up with Jim and the Holograms, I don't know why you wouldn't. I do. But also the spinoff series, The Misfits, one of my new favorite stories that has come out, I think, in the last year, The Cull. Currently on Birds of Prey, and has done Black Widow. I think you're going to be doing the upcoming Scarlet series over in the Energon universe, just kind of all over the place, and just absolutely nailing it. So thank you for joining us. I also, and I'm going to be very honest here, I'm a butcherer of names. So if I say this wrong, please do not hate me. But Paulina Ganucheau.
Ganucheau, you were really close.
I was almost there. I wrestled with that too. I was like, it's okay. You know what? Paulina Ganucheau. See, I got.
It was really good.
We're gonna cut out that first one. No one's gonna see that one. But you are the co-creator of, if I'm not mistaken, or actually no, the creator of Lemon Bird and co-creator of Zodiac Star Force, and Another Castle. And you've also done work on, if I'm not mistaken, Shay the Changing Girl, She-Ra, and I think it's a really long subtitle that I'm kind of sure. The Legend of the Fire Princess. Boom. Yes. I remember things. You also did Wonder Woman, The Adventures of Young Diana, and correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say I remember you did work for Mother Panic,
yes.
Gotham AD, and you just recently had a segment in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Black, White, and Green. So yeah, there you go. Look, I know things.
Paulina's everywhere. She also did, I'm sure it's not the most important credit to her, but maybe one of my favorite all-time Sabrina the Teenage Witch covers with that Salem. Okay. Man, that cover is so good. We had really great covers for that run, but man, that one came in and I'm like, well, someone knows what I like. It's these cats.
Oh, so I was gonna say that was actually another thing when I was looking, like when I was kind of doing more research on some previous works. I was like, man, how have I not been more aware of Paulina? Because you've literally done some of the most, by my estimation, some of the most badass covers for some of the comics that I've read, and I'm just like, how did I not catch that?
But Paulina's everywhere in a way that is hard because Paulina and I have circled each other. I feel like we're always circling projects, but we never got to work together until now. I mean, covers overlap maybe a little bit, but not a direct working together. But that's how this industry is sometimes. You're always seeing these people who you're like, man, I can't wait to work with them. You're like, I hope that's going to work out someday. I hope things are going to align for the right project eventually. I think that's how it is with a lot of us that really jump around to a lot of different stuff. And both Paulina and I have, I think, pretty varied careers where we sort of you can dip into some sort of hardcore DC stuff, but then you can also bounce out to all the sort of cartoony stuff we do. So yeah, it's been fun.
Can't nail me down.
It's one of those things where you sometimes wonder, I wonder this a lot about my career. I don't want to speak for you, Paulina, but there's a fear of getting pigeonholed, but then I also sometimes fear I'm doing too many things. And so someone's like, wait, this is an adult horror thing, but over there she's writing some comedy land shark thing that doesn't even have words. And now she's doing Powerpuff Girl. So I can't tell if that helps diversify me or makes me, people don't know where to put me. I don't know.
I am
I'm just
exactly
gonna,
the same way.
yeah,
I'm
I
exactly the
just,
same way. Yeah.
I'm just interested in what I'm interested in. And I think that sort of brings us to Powerpuff Girls because I just, anytime you take on a project like this with something that has a ton of episodes or comics or, or God, oh, there's novelizations, whatever, like, you're in for a big read through because even if
Mhm.
you're a big fan, you surely haven't seen all of the things. And a thing like Powerpuff Girls goes through ideas like tissue paper because they are cranking those things out and they're always really creative. And like, so you really have to bring your A game, in my opinion. And whenever you've got a bunch of research to do, even if you're excited about it because you love the property, it's a job. So it's like you have to like mark out time on your calendar to do that and like carve it all out. But I have to tell you, carving out that time for Powerpuff Girls was some of the most enjoyable research I've done. I was reading them and I would just be laughing I would just be reading PDFs of comics that I hadn't seen before
Mhm.
on my laptop, and my partner was like, "What are you laughing about?" I'm like, "Honestly, it's the Powerpuff Girls comics. Like, they're just really funny and smart and cute, and they just live in a space that like knows how to poke fun at itself, but like also sort of like makes you care about everything. It's a really special thing."
That's something I wanted to ask too, because I when I was kind of looking over, I think it was like the initial press release. I know Paulina said super uber mega fans. I know obviously you already had skin in the game on this. But I wanted but I did want to kind of know for both of you though, like, what was your like initial experience with Powerpuff Girls, like, back in its heyday?
It came out in 1998. I was literally 10 years old. So I was the demographic and I lost my mind. Me and my sister had everything Powerpuff Girls. We watched it every week. I even think Cartoon Network used to do these like giveaways where you like called in and tried to win things. And I remember one time they had like a skateboard, like a Powerpuff Girls skateboard. I called in, I'm not gonna lie, like 10 times. I didn't get it, of course, but like I was sure the stars would align and give me that freaking skateboard.
You definitely should retroactively get to have it now.
Honestly, I've proven myself.
I'm just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Maybe whoever owns said property rights, maybe
maybe a
Just give it
skateboard should
over.
show up on
Yeah.
Paulina's doorstep.
No
I think
problem.
yeah.
You're
So-
gonna knock
Mail
at
it
the
to
door.
me. Yeah.
So Paulina is considerably younger than I am, and I don't hate that at all, and I'm fine with it. So
I'm not
I
that
was,
young.
I was not exactly the demographic, but it still caught me. I mean, I watched the original series and I loved it. I thought it was the greatest thing, and it was popular and cool enough that it had the staying power that eventually, and I can't remember how this lines up with like the shows or the seasons or whatever, but when I got out at SCAD, I was going to try to get a storyboarding job on, and Powerpuff Girls would have been the dream. It was back when I was thinking maybe I would also be an artist. Hilarious. And one of the stories that I created for this uses things from the story I wrote for myself a million years ago, for that storyboarding gig I was trying to get for myself. So, just wait like 20 years or something and you can get to do the thing you love.
Well,
I mean, it really is. It really is probably like 20 years since
oh, wow.
yeah, probably. I mean, I didn't sit down and do the math, but it's got to be at least that.
So
Yeah.
I have to ask then, because you can't just put that out there. I gotta know. Is there any hope? Maybe and we could save this for like a trade or something. Save it for when the trade comes out. Maybe some old some old Kelly Thompson sketches,
Oh, man.
Powerpuff Girl
Well,
sketches.
I did decide for all these promos and maybe to put on my Substack or something, I would look and see if I could dig out. I know I saved some of the storyboarding cards I was using, and certainly the design, and there's some stuff in my sketchbook. So I probably will dig that stuff up, but I'm not sure how much I can find. It's been a couple moves since then.
Understandable. I mean, and Paulina, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you not do work on some of the previous? I know Powerpuff Girls had a stint at IDW Comics, and I think I remember. Did you do covers for the IDW series?
I think I did one cover, yes. And I think I may have done some of maybe I did an overlapping cover when they were like merging universes for a bit. But no, I didn't do a lot over there. I did more stuff for, I believe it was Penguin Random House. They were just doing like little books. Yeah, I did a few Powerpuff Girl covers for them there. Yeah.
And
no, this is my first like major PPG thing, which is very, very, very exciting.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Well,
yeah.
We finally arrived.
You get there eventually.
Yes.
Well, and I feel like y'all both kind of manifested this because just kind of based on I guess the origins of this, like you have both in some way, shape, form, or fashion kind of put it out there in the ether, and now it's kind of coming full circle. Like, so I have to ask, like, was it like a situation where, like, were y'all like just reached out to specifically? Or like, did y'all have to pitch for it, or like how did y'all come to work together finally?
I'll go first because I think Paulina probably came after me because of the way this works in comics. But so Nate is our editor, Nate Cosby. He does a bunch of books together for Dynamite, and he and I worked on Nancy Drew together years ago, which is a very popular title that I get asked about a lot from fans, and I always feel bad because we sort of ended it on a cliffhanger because we were going to do more, and then something fell apart, and then by the time we could try to put it back together, everyone had sort of moved on. So it was really disappointing because it was a really fun, great book and people really liked it. But so Nate reaches out to me about a lot of cool stuff, and most of the time I'm pretty interested, but I can't really, because he just knows me and he knows the kind of properties I'm interested in. And so when a cool one pops up, he'll mention it to me, and usually I have to say no. And when he mentioned Powerpuff Girls, he was like, any interest? And I was like, shit. Yes. Yes. I was like, I'm hugely, hugely interested in Powerpuff Girls. I was like, crap. No. And he was like, no, you should be excited. I was like, I am, but like, there's no way I'm going to be able to say no to this. And he knew it. He knew he had me like hook on it, like a fish on a hook. I was like, God damn it. And so that was how we worked out. I was like, me, my first question is the art has got to be up to snuff. Like, who are you going to get? And Paulina was one of the first names out of his mouth. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I was like, well, if we're talking Paulina and like people of her caliber, then like not a problem. Like, let's move on to the next question. So yeah, that was how it sort of started for me. I don't know about you, Paulina.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah. And they emailed me. I think he knew that I couldn't say no either.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
I think he knew. Maybe
knew.
he was a little worried on writers because it's probably I don't know. I bet a lot of writers are into Powerpuff Girls. I bet there are a lot of dudes you could be. I mean, it's Craig McCracken, a dude invented it, for Christ's sake. Like, it's not like it's girly. But he might have been a little worried about finding writers, but I can't imagine he would be worried about finding, especially because there are so many talented young women who were raised on Powerpuff and who have a style that really would fit with it. So Paulina is maybe like, gee, way to make me seem like I could be anyone, Kelly. And I'm going to say, I think it's a great compliment that she was like one of the first names out of his mouth, because I think there are a lot of people who could do interesting takes on this and more importantly would be interested in it the way we are. So I feel like we lucked out to have it all come together, and Nate's a great editor. He gets that. So it's nice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think regardless with what you said about the artists, like anyone can kind of be plugged in. I think that's kind of good for the longevity of Powerpuff Girls. And I think that's why so many people latch onto it, because it does have this style that is very accessible, especially for young artists, because it was one of the first things I latched onto as a creative when I was, 10 years old, drawing ugly stuff, when you're
Yeah.
10.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
I
so
don't look at my old
streamlined.
sketchbooks.
Yeah, exactly. It's so streamlined and simple enough to where you're like, I can do that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think.
But I think why people like you really excel at it is because you can bring like a little of yourself to it while still keep it on model. And that's really exciting. I think with us also, to me, one of the most important things to do in a story like the Powerpuff Girls, because it's an all ages title, you can't write too much up or you risk losing. And so what are the things you can do to also make it more interesting for an adult, whether they find the Powerpuff Girls charming and delightful or not, is you can do narrative things that are a little more interesting. And I think the script that Paulina is working on for issue 1 is a bit clever because I think I'm a tiny bit clever, but mostly it falls on Paulina because it really demands a lot of her in the narrative and the visuals. The storytelling, it works completely fine for a kid. They just are reading a comic. But I think if you're an adult and you're paying a little more attention, you'll see some of the things we're trying to do with the narrative and like sort of separating the characters and bringing them back together. It's like some subtler stuff that you hope that if an adult is reading, that they're going to appreciate it on a level that a kid is just sort of not going to clock,
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
totally agree.
It kind of reminds me of the day that I realized that regular show was not for kids. Not entirely. Like,
Yeah.
and really any cartoon that like
Yeah.
you probably grow up with. I always like to point to Rocco's Modern Life. Like no
Mhm.
one really talks about it until you get older. That Rocco works at a phone sex hotline. This is not a thing you talk about. Or that grandpa from Rugrats was constantly renting like porn and watching it while the kids are asleep. It's kind of weird, but it's whatever. We're not. I'm not here to judge, but but no, it's you do kind of have to reach that a dual audience. Because you're gonna have people who are our ages that are most likely going to be reading this as well, and you've got the kids, of course, they're gonna be reading as well. And the thing I will definitely say that I find interesting, just with what you were saying about kind of keeping that tone and look, is that I always appreciate when like an old property comes back and it looks like how I remember it. So like when I read that like that used to be like your main style of drawing, I was like, oh, this is the bag then. This is done. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not worried at all. But I'm curious too, like, so with Powerpuff Girls having so long a history, and being just as iconic as it is, how are y'all gonna approach this new? Is it gonna be kind of treated like as a kind of a first time out, or like a continuation, or like kind of maybe meeting somewhere in the middle?
It's not this. I don't know if you call it a reboot. I don't know what you call it. This iteration, this iteration of Powerpuff Girls, for these first 3 issues at least, that's all we can really talk about. I think are they're done as done in ones. They're not like some big origin story or the arc of you're in a Powerpuff Girls adventure, and it just picks up. It feels like a classic Powerpuff adventure that I think you could slot in anywhere. And I think that's both the challenge and the benefit of Powerpuff Girls. Like you can do almost anything with them, and because of the way the property advances, it doesn't really take them to a place where, well, now Buttercup, are you drawing Buttercup with the scar she got? And the other, like, that doesn't, they sort of reset to base type. Like, you don't ever have to deal with that heavy continuity, I don't think. I think the biggest problem as a writer is that there's so many stories, and they're honestly really good. So don't think like, oh, I've got this idea about eggs, and then you go and you're like, shit, there's 3 egg stories, and then you're like, okay, well, they're all really different, and then you're like, this one's sort of like mine, but it's not very good. No, it's going to be good. If they did a story about eggs, it's good. So you better that's just how they are. Like they're just really funny and smart. Like the people who made them are clever and love them, and they know what they're doing, and so you're not going to find a lot of people sleeping on these stories. stories, and so there's all these TV stories, there's all these comics, and I'm sure most readers haven't seen every episode or read every story, but you still don't want to repeat things. So like that was the biggest problem for me, is there is a mountain of stuff and you're like, well, I have these 3 really good ideas, and you're like, have they already been done a dozen times before? Because you got to check. I mean,
Yeah.
I got super worried because when I was doing the reading, I had all these volumes, and like I think it's like the second story in the first volume I was reading it's not what we're doing, but it was a little close to a thing I was doing. And I'm like, my God, thank God I read this. And this is the second story in the first volume. I'm in so much trouble. But they all got approved. It all worked out, and I'm very excited about them. So I hope we're going to tell some stuff that really feels like classic Powerpuff Tales, and we're just going to go all the way in. I don't know. I'm excited.
You've brought up something that I never really even considered before. That's a Herculean task. By any stretch of the imagination, trying to come up with something original in a franchise that has had hundreds.
It's sort of like writing a Deadpool story. Like, they've done everything, they've been everywhere, so like you got to find some really a clever angle. I think in some ways it maybe would have been easier to take on the Powerpuff Girls and be like, oh, we're telling a big story. But when I sat down to do that, I'm like, I'm not saying I'll never do that, or I'm not saying there isn't a great one there probably is, but I found when I was reading and watching it made me just want to write classic episodes. It didn't make me want to write some crazy thing where they go to the Powerpuff multiverse or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that wouldn't be super fun. It would be, but I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to I had these ideas for these weird things they could do that would show us sort of different sides of them and let us play with form a little bit. And so that's what I ended up focusing on.
One thing I'm curious about too, and this is because I'm such a nerd when it comes to these things. I love reading scripts, for comics, because I find them very enlightening. And so whenever I get the chance to, I always enjoy kind of poring over them and see like more for the notes, not really for anything else. But so I'm curious. Because I've seen in some instances, like in where sometimes the writer will go like the writer will say, oh no, you just go crazy here, go do this, or, do that, or like, and I know a lot of times too, just as an artist, just kind of give an example. So I was talking to Nicholas Raper Ivy about Static. And there was a thing that happens, and it's a Common Rider reference, and I'm a Tokusatsu nerd, so like it stuck out to me, and I was like, oh man, I was like, who came up with that? And he was like, no, that was my part of it. And Vita was like, that was totally Nick's part of it. So I know sometimes like sometimes people forget. It's a nice friendly reminder that the artist is also kind of writing the story as well, just in a way that doesn't seem incredibly obvious. So
that's why my first thing to Nate is who's the artist going to be. Yeah. Like it's only we're working together. Like I'm only as good as Paulina is, and Paulina's only as good as I am, and that goes all the way down the line. I do think I'm watching. She has the disadvantage of not being able to see my face, but I'm watching her face. She's being very calm, considering she's read the script, which is sort of a nightmare. I mean, hopefully it's as clear as it can be, but it's way more than usual. Like there's specific requests for like tears and stuff. Like I never do that, and I think every time I ask for it, I would like try to put a thing at the top like, okay, Paulina, this is my weird idea about how we can like narratively do this thing I'm trying to do. If you hate it, we can do it another way. Like, so there was a lot of that in a way that there usually isn't. Like, I never really want to be telling my artists how many panels should be on a page. I'm making a suggestion about how many I think should be on this page based on what I'm giving them, but it's always their call if it should be different. And then this had some like very specific requests, and I was like, I guess I'll just see. Either Nate will come back and be like, Paulina has some questions and she doesn't like it, or I'll just start getting pages and she's into it, and so we'll figure it out. But it is yeah, you like that? You liked it? Good.
Yes, I was gonna I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm already well past the very thought out tier system that you have designed. And I love it. I will say it took at least 3 reads for me to parse what you were asking of me. But now that I have it, I think it's going to be really, really cool.
Honestly,
and really wonderful.
I really appreciate you playing ball, and I really appreciate you taking those 3 reads, because honestly, that's a lot to ask, and I wouldn't normally be like, yeah, they should definitely do it my way. That took 3 reads. But even when I was doing it, like on that page with all the tiers, like the spacing, like I was spacing it out like that. And I was like, this is confusing even for me. How are they going to get this? So I really appreciate that you took the time to figure it out. I wouldn't, let me compliment you by saying I wouldn't have asked it of you if I didn't think you could totally do it. I knew you would get it and embrace it and like make it cool, which is what I need my artists to do.
I've been doing this a long time.
I desperately need your help. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think readers will really, really love it. I can't wait to show everybody, and you, Kelly, because you haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't seen anything yet. Like, yeah. I mean, but I just know look at how cute the cover is that I'm looking at right now. Like, you just know it's gonna look like that. Like, it's gonna be amazing. I'm so
well, I mean, that's kind of like, and once again, that's kind of why I'm excited for this, because there's just something special about, that, and, maybe it's just the nostalgia talking, but like, there's just something I really like when I look at a property that I, loved, as a, child or teenager or whatever, and see it look the way that I remember it, it reads the way that, that I remember it. It's something about it, like, it's like, man, they still get me. If it feels good. So I'm curious, like, if they're for the eagle-eyed readers, because once again, I know, Paulina, you go way back with this. This is like a huge part of your childhood. Like, was there any temptation to not just just go all in on just crazy background stuff, or kind of Easter egg stuff?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I honor the original material a lot. I have so much reference saved. I do think I still have a little bit of a spark that is me, but it's pretty one-to-one. Like the first few pages that will be released are at Pokey Oaks, and I have a million reference pictures of Pokey Oaks, and I think I did it pretty well. So I think people will be really happy. Even some of the background students I pulled from episodes. So like,
well, that's fun.
Wow.
I love that.
So I think people will have a really good time.
For my part, I didn't really get into Easter egg stuff, especially on this script, just because it was complicated. Like, I didn't need to overcomplicate it, especially for someone who knows the stuff so well. I think, like she said, when you take on Powerpuff Girls, I can't speak for Paulina, but they send you a whole couple Bibles full of information that is full of reference material and everything. And like, it can feel overwhelming, but it also helps you know, you're like, oh, do I need Bubbles in a dinosaur outfit? It's probably in here. Like, it's really comprehensive, and it really is it helps you feel like there's a hand on the wheel, and that like the people who know about this property and love it, like, have their eyes on it. But I don't worry about it that much because we love it. Like, I know we're not trying to break it. We're just trying to tell great stories with it. So, I wouldn't have, because the narrative is so visually complicated in this one, I didn't really lean into any kind of Easter eggs or something, but I'll be delighted to see them. I mean, I just love, and that's something we talked about. I talked about how clever and how fun the writing is and everything, but let's just talk about the style of it, like that UPA, that old UPA style, like a mid-century modern, and like the overcolor back. Like, it's just, I mean, that's more the show than the comic, I guess, like as far as a like a seeing the effect of that, but like it's just a visual delight, that whole world, the characters. Like when you get a pan across something that has no Powerpuff Girls in it, and it's just the weird people of Townsville with some of the, like, this guy has a square head and two rabbit teeth, and like, I mean, they just look wild in like the most fun ways. It's just a visual delight. Like everything you see is a joy. I love it. It's a fun world to play in, man.
Yeah. I think the color story alone of Powerpuff
Yes.
Girls has such a long lasting effect on me as a creative
Totally.
forever.
I
that,
mean,
yeah,
right
like,
behind you, there's like a pink and a blue that look like Powerpuff stripes.
Yeah.
Like the way they're hanging on you. I mean, you're like color coded already.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited. So if I just, yeah, and just the amount of like fun and joy that I can see just between y'all, like how much y'all are happy about this. Like that's always something I love to see, because it just lets me know this is gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good time. This is, if I'm not mistaken, it is going to be the 17th of July, I believe it is, when the first issue is going to drop.
Wow, is that Comic-Con?
I think so.
If it is, they should have done something.
I don't know. I
Sorry.
could be wrong.
Comic-Con might be the week after. I don't know. I don't really pay that much attention. But if it is, man, missed opportunity if we didn't do a special something for it when it launches that day. I'm not in control of these things. It was hard enough doing 2 creator-owned books. Let me out.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say y'all have both kept pretty busy, so the fact that y'all are doing this all, to me, is just wild, because I'm just like, y'all are both kind of like in the trenches when it comes to just you consistently putting out work. So yeah, I think it's just a feat of just dedication and professionalism and just being about business. So I love to see it. Yeah, so I guess for me, the thing I'm curious about is because are we looking at like are we how far? I mean, I know you said like 3 issues so far is like pretty much all the we can really look to right now, but like is there like a plan for like like a set number of issues, or is it going to be treated like an ongoing series, or like what, like, I guess if you
I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say on that front. I'm not sure. All I can really talk about for now is 3 issues, I think. But
we don't want to make it hot. Just
yeah. I just don't know. I just haven't been given any sort of directive on that front. So
yeah.
And I did say something the other day I shouldn't have said. So I'm trying to be careful. Not about Powerpuff Girls, about Birds of Prey. So so I have my guard slightly up.
No. You know what? My job here, I like to protect. I like to protect people. So I this conversation never happened.
Thank you.
This conversation, don't know what you're talking about. But no. I guess the thing I would like to ask now, and because I don't want to. I've already kept y'all too long. But I'm curious to know, just because people always ask me these things, like, oh, why didn't you ask this? Why didn't you ask that? So I'm curious to know, which Powerpuff Girl would you personally like your personal favorite if you had to choose?
Bubbles.
Like, ooh, that was quick.
There's no hesitation.
No hesitation. Okay.
Bubbles with a bullet. Probably because I'm not like that. I'm more like Buttercup. So she's easy to write, but I love Bubbles. What about you, Paulina?
I'm like forever a toss them up between Buttercup and Blossom because I think I am more of a Blossom. I'm, kind of a goody goody when it comes to work and getting
Me
things done.
too. Oh,
Yeah,
well, not on
but
deadlines. On deadlines, I'm more of a whoever isn't a Powerpuff Girl at all.
yeah, yeah,
Some
yeah,
villain. Some
yeah.
villain
Like
is me on
honestly,
deadlines.
yes, yes. But I love Buttercup so much, and I just like she means the world to me. So it's both of them. I just hold both of them, and
I sort of love that you like Blossom that much. I feel like nobody ever says Blossom, which makes me
no,
feel a little bad because I love her, but I feel like, and I don't really think it's her fault. I think often the sort of unofficial lead, quote unquote, tends to get,
yep.
and it's in everything. I think
She's
Buffy is
Leonardo.
actually, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think Buffy is one of the few examples where I'd say she ends up sort of transcending the leadership role and sort of becoming one of my favorites despite that. But the leader is almost never my favorite.
Yeah.
And some of that's just because the characters slightly to the side of the leader sometimes get to do more interesting things or be a little weirder or a little wilder because you need that strong center in order for other things to be a little crazier. Like I feel like Buttercup and Bubbles don't get to lean so much into love and anger and punching if the center isn't more reasonable. So I feel like Blossom is forever sort of underrated in that regard, and it makes me feel bad for her, but I'd never pick her as my favorite. I can't. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll love her for both of us.
There you go. I do love her. I do love her. She would never not be third if I ranked them. And it makes me feel terrible because she's doing what needs to be done, which, like you, Paulina, is very me. I'm much more like Blossom than Bubbles.
Yeah.
But I am pretty angry, so I don't know. I get it. There was a little too much spice in my mixture, I think.
Oh,
possibly.
I can,
maybe a couple puppy dog tails got in there. I don't know.
I mean, you know what? I can empathize on some levels. I'm neither a Blossom or a Bubbles. I'm probably more in the Buttercup territory.
Buttercup team.
Well, she's awesome. So
she's amazing.
Yeah.
And plus, you know how much she loves under all that anger. She just like she's the most vulnerable for sure.
Oh yeah.
Like and I love that. I think Bubbles is the least vulnerable, even though she appears the most vulnerable. There are all these incredible dichotomies with these kids. Like they're so simple, right on down to the color palette. And yet if you scratch the surface, there's a lot there. It's really great. And it's a formula that just completely works, which is why I like to upend it a little bit with like narrative stuff or visual devices, because there's all these really fun things you can do with it. I mean, I love on this cover that we're looking at, Paulina, that Buttercup has the red eyes and the other two have normal eyes. It's amazing. So great.
I love it. Like it's that level of attention to detail that I just find really just like mwah.
I do have to ask Paulina, since we're talking about it, who's your favorite villain?
Oh my God. Okay, it's either Sedusa or him.
Him is genuinely scary.
Yeah.
So for the right episodes or stories, rather, him is my choice too. But I love Mojo Jojo.
Oh, he's fantastic.
I mean,
you can't not love Mojo.
I was just rewatching some episodes the other day, and there's a favorite of mine that's just another manic Mojo. And the Powerpuff Girls are basically not in it. They're barely in it. They're playing baseball, and he's in his laboratory. But it starts with him being upset because he only has one egg, and you need 2 eggs for a nutritious breakfast. So he goes out to get the egg, but he forgets his wallet. He has an upsetting experience at the grocery store with the clerk. He finally has these eggs, and then one of their baseballs comes in. Children are swimming in his moat. He's like, "Don't swim in my moat!" Like, it's amazing. I love him. What?
So good. I love the one where he turns into a dog at the end.
Oh my God, the dog!
He's so cute, and they keep him, and like the episode ends with them having a pet dog, Mojo. It's so amazing.
Well, that one is great. That one is great. The second issue I don't know if I'm supposed to say the villain. I don't really think it's a spoiler.
Mhm.
But one of the villains we've talked about appears in the first one, and Mojo Jojo appears in the second one, and it's him turning into a dog and being their pet. It's like that vibe of like a kind of a thing. Yeah, man.
So yeah, this
they're great.
is
They're great.
yeah, this is in good hands. I think it's safe to
Yes,
say.
we love them. Can you tell?
Yeah, I mean, I totally said yes because it was Powerpuff Girls, but in the far very low reaches of my strategic brain, which doesn't work very well, I was hoping that I would maybe get some crossover with like Jeff the Landshark people. If you like Jeff the Landshark with me and Guri Hiru, I think this is different, but you'll be into the vibe for sure. and vice versa. If you love Powerpuff Girls and you like what Paulina and I do, I would urge you to check out Jeff the Landshark. I'm trying to make some small roads into doing more all ages stuff. You know, I did Mega Princess years ago with Boom, which was a sort of co-creator owned all ages book. And it was a huge failure financially.
Oh wow.
And it was an incredibly frustrating experience because, you know, I've spent a lot of time talking about how you have to make comics for kids. If you don't, you're just abandoning this industry and letting it die. And so I just think comics for kids are incredibly important. But until Jeff, I have really had sort of swing and a miss experiences with it where I feel like I'm doing good work. We're all doing good work, but it doesn't really seem to be connecting into something popular and, you know, something that can really bring readers in and like get people excited the way a lot of creators are managing to do, especially in the graphic novel market. And so doing more stuff like this along with Jeff, like it's trying to build this stuff up. It's good.
Well,
buy it for your kid and then read it and laugh your head off because Powerpuff Girls are great. Powerpuff Girls are great.
Well, I was gonna say there will be links in the description as well as pinned comment below. So first and foremost, make sure you go check out Powerpuff Girls when it drops. The link will be down there. There will also, because this is just how we do things here. There will also be links to each of Kelly and Paulina's works. You will see links to a lot of that stuff down there. You'll see some Jeff the Landshark down there. You will very likely see, because if I'm not mistaken, I think the trade for girl mode's coming out later this year.
Yes.
Is it? So yeah, that'll be down there as well, so you can go pre-order
Nice.
that.
Nice.
All sorts of things. Not limited to those things, but I like for people to go check out the other work so they can get a better idea of what all you're capable of, because y'all both have really incredible range in your respective categories, and I'll say it. I'll fight a motherfucker over your Captain Marvel run. I'll just go ahead and say that right now.
It's awesome.
And
Guys?
as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I won't say super fan because I know there's bigger fans out there than me. I was actually really pleased with your segment, Paulina, on
thank
Black,
you.
White, and Green. It felt like I was watching the cartoon again.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I just if it has not become obvious to anybody watching this, please, I'm in. Okay, I'm in. I'm in. You should probably be into. Make sure you go check out those links. And and I just want to say thank you to both of you for taking the time to talk with me, and sharing your love, your passion, your energy for this property and this comic, and just overall being very awesome individuals.
Thank you so much,
Ernie.
You guessed it, obligatory channel outro time. If you're not subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. Clicking that subscribe button and tapping that notification bell ensures that you get more videos just like this one, and you don't miss any of my other content that I drop throughout the week, plus my live streams every Thursday and Saturday. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button, keep it plus ultra, and sound off in the comments.